Hey guys, so I want to make a 2024 presidential election prediction between incumbent President Joe Biden and one of the top Republicans for the 2024 nomination, and that being former Vice President Mike Pence, who, although is not the strongest of candidates, he definitely still has a very, very good chance at winning the nomination. He is a former Vice President, which automatically makes him one of the most prominent candidates in the race, and he has done many things that signals he is trying to improve his popularity for a potential 2024 run. So if you do look at the polls here, he does lead in some polls where Donald Trump is not included. You see this one poll here where Pence does lead over Ron DeSantis. You also see ones where DeSantis leads if Donald Trump's not included. If Donald Trump is included, typically Mike Pence does do better than Ron DeSantis because Donald Trump does take more votes away from DeSantis than he does from Mike Pence. So if Donald Trump Sr. runs, he definitely has a very, very almost 100% chance at winning that nomination. However, if he does not run, currently the top two candidates are Ron DeSantis and Mike Pence, although if you do look at the odds here, Nikki Haley is technically in third place, Pence in fourth. Nikki Haley is not polling anywhere near Mike Pence. If you look at this poll right here, Pence at 19%, Nikki Haley is at an astonishing 3% in this poll. So definitely with Donald Trump out of the picture, Ron DeSantis and Mike Pence are two of the top candidates for the race. Ron DeSantis, of course, only became a prominent Republican in the last couple of months, and if you do go back to November, you see the polls released right after the 2020 presidential election, you will see that Mike Pence is doing very, very well in some of these earlier polls before the insurrection at the Capitol. So these are the 2020 election polls where Trump was basically uncontested. However, if you do look at some of these polls, you see Pence plus 38 in North Carolina. This was done right before the election. So at this point, before the election, before Donald Trump lost the election, Mike Pence was one of the top candidates for the race. However, that is really no longer the case, but he would still be one of the most prominent candidates. He is still technically in third place at this point, a pretty solid third place as of right now, and that things can definitely change. He can definitely be a top tier candidate at some point. So before we get started, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. We have a pretty cool mock government on there, so make sure you join that if you have not. I also have channel memberships for just 99 cents per month. Make sure you check those out if you are interested in gaining some special perks on this channel. So I'm going to start off by filling in the solid states for both Joe Biden and Mike Pence. These are really the very typical states. Colorado, Biden won by 13.5%. This was a state that Hillary Clinton only won by, I believe, 5% in 2016. So Joe Biden definitely improved a lot off of Clinton's margin in 2016 and 2020. And so because of that, I think Colorado, especially in 2024 against a candidate like Mike Pence, I think that Joe Biden can definitely win Colorado by a solid margin. As you can see here, in 2020, it was won by Biden by 13.5%, and then 2016, Clinton only won it by 4.9%. So this was definitely a big shift to the left. Colorado is now more Democratic than New Mexico, which had not been a case for a very, very long time. For Mike Pence, his solid states include many of the traditionally solid Republican states. Montana, I'm not going to currently give him as a solid state, nor will I give him Kansas, Missouri, or Mississippi. However, I do think that most of the state of Nebraska, as well as Arkansas, Louisiana, and Alabama, along with Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia, will all be solid. I will also include his home state of Indiana. 11 electoral votes puts Mike Pence up at 86 electoral votes from his solid states. These are states in which he would win by over 15%, but for his likely states, which are 7 to 15%, he definitely still does have a lot of states that he is 100% going to win. These include the states of Montana, Kansas, Missouri, Mississippi, South Carolina, as well as Alaska. So looking at these states here, and of course the first district of Nebraska. So taking a look at these numbers here, in 2020, Donald Trump won basically all of the solid red states by solid margins. He did win Alaska by just 14.7, or this was 2016, sorry about that, 2020, Trump won South Carolina by 11.7 and Alaska by 10.1. In Kansas, he only won by 14.7, which made it likely. Missouri, he won by 15.4, very, very barely solid. Mississippi, 16.5, and Montana, 16.4. I do not think Mike Pence can do as well. In 2020, he won Indiana by 16.1, but in 2016, along with Mike Pence as his VP, Trump won Indiana by 19 percentage points, which was a huge increase from the 9% margin or 10% margin that Mitt Romney had in 2012. So I do think that Mike Pence had a big deal in making Indiana very, very red for Donald Trump, and I think that if he was on top of the ticket, him being from the state, I really do think would help him, especially since Indiana is shifting more and more to the right just in general. So no matter what, the Democrats demographic trends do benefit Mike Pence in this state nonetheless. So this gives Mike Pence 125 electoral votes and Joe Biden 191 electoral votes. These are states in which these parties are going to win 100%. For the first likely state for Joe Biden, I have New Mexico's 5 electoral votes. This was won by Joe Biden by around 10% in 2020. In 2008, Obama won by 10%. 2016, it got pretty close, 8.2. And then in 2020, Biden wins it by 10.8. So definitely a very, very strong victory. But if you do look back at 2008, Obama did, of course, win New Mexico by 15.1%, with the state previously being a tilt state for Bush just in 2004 against John Kerry. So definitely, Barack Obama did very, very well there in New Mexico. Joe Biden did well there as well, but I do not think he can do that much better this time to get that margin over 15. I also have, of course, the state of Virginia, which has gone a lot bluer in the last decade. The Republicans have not won a statewide race there in over a decade. It was in the 2000s that the Republicans won any statewide races there. The governor, the governorship, the state houses, the state senate, as well as the 2 Senate seats are all held and controlled by Democrats at this point. In the state of Virginia, Biden won by 10.1. In 2016, it was rather disappointing because Tim Kaine was a senator from the state of Virginia, alongside he was a VP, of course, for Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine. But in Virginia, Clinton only won by 5.3, a lot smaller than expected. It was an increase from Obama's 3.9% margin, but you have to remember that the state of Virginia was a lot redder in 2012 than it was in 2016. 2008, it was a margin of 6.3, so it was pretty widely expected that Hillary Clinton would do better than Obama here, 8 years before her, because if you do look back, 2004, Bush won the state by 8.2, and 2000, it was a margin of 8%, so this state really did used to be very, very red. Even Bob Dole won Virginia against Bill Clinton when he won 379 electoral votes. Bill Clinton won Arkansas, this was his home state, but he won Louisiana by 12.1%, Florida by 5.7%, but he could not pick up the state of Virginia. He even won Tennessee and Kentucky. So definitely, the state of Virginia used to be a very, very red state. That is no longer the case today, which is why I have put Virginia in the likely Democratic column. On top of that, I have Minnesota as a likely state. Biden won this state by 7% in 2020, almost exactly 7%. I think he'll do around the same. I think it can go down to a lead margin, but I think that he definitely, does have enough support there that it can stay as a likely state on this map. So that's another 10 electoral votes for the incumbent president, and that is basically it for the likelies at this point. I also have the 2nd District of Maine and the at-large vote in Maine and the 2nd District of Nebraska, both as likely on this map. So this puts Biden officially at 222 electoral votes. He's now less than 50 away from his re-election. However, there are quite a few pretty important lean states for Mike Pence on this list, starting off with the states of Iowa and Ohio. I do not think that he can do as well as Donald Trump. If you do look at this map, you look at 2012, both these states were won by Barack Obama. Iowa, 5.8 for Obama. Ohio, 3% for Obama. However, in 2016, when Donald Trump ran against Hillary Clinton, he won Ohio by 8.1% and Iowa by 9.4%. Now, it was widely expected that Joe Biden would do better in 2020. However, he did not. He lost in Ohio by 8%, almost the same margin. Iowa went down 1% to 8.1%, but still, barely anything changed. So Donald Trump was a very strong candidate in the Rust Belt. He also, of course, flipped those 3 Rust Belt states in 2020. He made the Rust Belt go from looking like this in 2008, completely controlled by the Democratic Party. Everything was won by Obama here in 2008. 2012, Obama loses Indiana by 10%, so that was a pretty big loss for him. However, 2016, the Democrats lose 5 more states in the Rust Belt. They almost lost Minnesota by 1.5%, but if you do look at this map here, Joe Biden managed to pull the top part of the Rust Belt back, very, very narrowly, and he barely made a difference in Ohio and Iowa. So these states, I think that Mike Pence will not do so well in, because Trump barely won them by likely margins. It was not anywhere near over 10%, so I do think that these 2 states will still be a little bit weaker for Mike Pence than they were for Donald Trump, but still nonetheless a win for Mike Pence. On top of that, in the state of Texas, this is a big one here. I think that Mike Pence can do better than Donald Trump in Texas. I think this is one of the few states that Mike Pence can do better in, because Donald Trump has not been the best for Texas. He has been quite weak in the state. 2012, of course, Romney wins by 16%. 2016, Trump won it by 9. And 2020, Trump won by 5.6. This is alongside in 2018 when Beto O'Rourke won the state of Texas, the Senate race, by just 2 points, or Ted Cruz won over Beto O'Rourke by just 2.6%. So the Democratic Party is not doing well in Texas. John Cornyn only wins by 9.6%. If you look at 2014, he won by 27%. So the state of Texas really is not trending too great for the Republican Party as of this point in time. I don't think Mike Pence can do much to improve it, but I do not think he will make it too much worse, which is why I do have Texas as a lean state. It's 40 electoral votes going for the former vice president. And now I want to move on to the lean states for Joe Biden, starting off with the state of Nevada, won by Biden and Clinton both by 2.4% over Donald Trump. I think that this will not really change too much. The Democrats do always typically get the same 2-3% margin. That's what we've seen over the last couple of elections, with Catherine Cortez Masto's election in 2016 as well, won by the exact same margin as Biden and Clinton, that 2.4%. And on top of that, I also have the state of Arizona as a lean state for Joe Biden. They were both won by likely margins by Mark Kelly and Kyrsten Sinema in 2020 and 2018. As you can see, Arizona special election 2020, Kelly plus 2.3, and in 2018, Sinema plus 2.3. So I do think that the Democratic Party can do well here with Joe Biden on the ticket. Kelly won 51.16%, and with the state being one that is quickly shifting to the left, I mean, if you just go back a couple of years here, 2004, this state voted for Bush by 10.5%. If you go back a little bit further, it was very, very red. In 1988, went for Bush by 21%. Clinton was able to win it his second time in 1996 against Bob Dole. However, he lost it, and no Democrat has won it since, until Joe Biden, of course, in 2020, wins it by 0.3. I think he can improve off of that margin, and I think he'll be able to carry the state of Arizona. I also have the state of New Hampshire as a lean state. I do not think Joe Biden will do better than in New Hampshire than he did in 2020. I think the margin will go just slightly under the 7.4% that Biden got in 2020. I just think that, the state, it has not been good for Donald Trump, but if you do look, some Republicans can do very, very well in New Hampshire. They do have a Republican governor right now, and if you look at 2016, I mean, Clinton only won by 0.37. I think after 4 years, Joe Biden will not be as strong in New Hampshire. I do think the margin could definitely go down a little bit. It can still be likely, but I do think at this point I'm going to put it in the lean column for the incumbent president. And then just to get it out of the way, Mike Pence wins the 2nd District of Maine with a tilt margin, something that Trump flipped. I think Pence will be able to hold on to it. However, in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, I have the same margin for all 3 of these states, all 3 of them being lean states for Joe Biden on this map, putting him up at 287 electoral votes. I do think that he can do very, very well in all 3 of these upper Rust Belt states. I mean, these states were dominated by the Democratic Party for a very long time. 2012, 2008, 2004, they were won by Democrats. 2000, won by Democrats. 1996, all blue with Bill Clinton. 1992, all blue. The last time the entire Rust Belt, or Wisconsin was still blue for Dukakis in 88. Michigan and Pennsylvania were both pretty red. And then in 1984, this was the last time the entire upper Rust Belt, meaning Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, were completely red. The next time this would happen is, of course, Donald Trump in 2016, won it all by less than 1%. Very narrow margins, but 2020, Biden flips it back. And this was pretty expected, but he still did much, much worse than the margins that were expected for him. So I do think that against Mike Pence, he'll be able to hold off stronger here and win all of these states by over 2%. And now I have 3 final states, North Carolina and Georgia, I have as tilt for Joe Biden. I think that he can hold on to the state of Georgia. He won it by tilt margin in 2020, the first flip for Georgia going blue since 1992 with Bill Clinton against, I believe, George Bush Sr. But in 2024, I think that Biden can win by relatively the same margin. I think Warnock is going to have trouble there in 2022, but 2024 presidential year, I think Democrats can turn out for the incumbent once again. In the state of North Carolina, 16 electoral votes. This would be a historic win. The first time the Democrats win in North Carolina since 2008, when Obama won by 0.33, and that was a pretty solid victory because, Clinton never even won the state of North Carolina. So in 2008, Obama wins it, and the Democrats have been struggling to win there. However, Joe Biden made some pretty good gains in the state. And I think with Mike Pence on the ticket 2024, I think Joe Biden can knock the Republicans out of the state. And then finally, in the state of Florida, I have this as the final tilt state for Joe Biden. I think that although Trump did well here, I do not think Mike Pence will be able to do as well with those Latino voters, those Cuban voters. I do think they will flip for the Democratic Party. The state, at the end of the day, it is still a very competitive state, although Republicans recently have done much better in that state. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. For this prediction, I have Joe Biden at 349 electoral votes to Mike Pence at 189 electoral votes. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like it down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below who you think would win between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Make sure to join my Discord server if you have not. We have a pretty cool mock government on this. Make sure to join if you have not. The link to which is at the very top of the description below. Channel memberships, 99 cents per month. Get them if you are interested by clicking on that blue join button. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.